the 517 Capital City Podcast. My name is Katie Sacramento, and I am here at the RE/MAX office with
Gandolfo
and assistant broker, Adrianne. Fantastic. So we do want to preface here, we are getting our air conditioning fixed here at the RE/MAX office in East Lansing, so there might be some humming in the background. We'll try to tune it out as much as possible, but we are also thankful because the air conditioning is coming back on. So
it's been hot.
It's been hot. And it's been a hot summer. And we have a lot of questions around what's happening in the real estate industry right now. I personally am in the market for a new house. And so I've got a lot of questions of what is changing, what's going on with some of the new changes in what buyers can and cannot do. There's some changes coming up here in August. So we wanted to talk with Adrianne and Kat about some things that we can learn from and be aware of going into the real estate industry if you're buying or selling. And more importantly, we're going to talk about it in layman's terms. So we're not going to be talking big terms that are like scary and like lots of jargon and everything. So
no legal advice will be given.
No legal advice will be given, and they're going to break it down for us so that we, as buyers and as sellers, can have a good idea of what to expect. So, Kat, what's happening in August? What's going on?
So, August 17th, there's going to be some big changes coming to our industry. As far as your relationship to your agents, I think that there's been a lot of information in the news about it that makes it sound big and scary, and it's really kind of small and not scary at all, which is why I asked my mentor, Adrianne Lau. She's not only an associate broker here at RE/MAX, she's also my team lead over at Rooted Real Estate, so she has made my life more relaxing and helped me through understanding all of these changes. So I thought it might be helpful for us to kind of sit down and have her kind of explain it. Starting back from the beginning, Adrianne, let's kind of talk about what a buyer's agent and a seller's agent is, so we kind of have an understanding of where it starts and why you would want separate agents.
So in real estate, typically a transaction is going to have two separate agents. You've got an agent working for the seller and an agent working for the buyer. I don't necessarily think that part is going to change. The thing that's going to change is that in the past, the seller would pay both agents. That does seem a little bit weird when you think about it. Now, the buyer and their agent are going to negotiate what the fee will be, and the seller and their client will negotiate what the fee will be. And that's all going to be part of the negotiation of everything within the transaction. So when you're purchasing a house, yes, there's a price, but there's so many other things to negotiate. There's occupancy. Are we going to do inspections? Are there negotiations after inspections? How much is the deposit? Are there other personal property items included? And on and on and on. And so this is just going to be something else that is negotiated at the time of the offer rather than upfront when the property is listed for sale. So it's not actually a major change. If you heard the news, there was a lot saying, oh, sellers don't have to pay a buyer agency fee anymore. Technically, they never did. It's always been negotiable. But the thing that's going to change is that we will no longer publish if the seller is offering a buyer agency fee or not. So I think that it will change things. We don't necessarily know exactly how yet, but.
And we've had some experience already with sellers in this because it's been news for a while. Mm-hmm. So we've had sellers who are asking us about this for months. And these sellers have always had the choice. Do you want to offer buyer agency commission? What rate do you want to offer for buyer agency commission? That's always been a discussion. And we've been discussing with our clients, okay, here are the options. Here's what it looks like if you offer it. Here's what it looks like if you don't. Here are the benefits to offering it. I think that one of the most important benefits that all sellers need to know is buyers, agents, have buyers who are ready, willing, and able to write an offer on your house today. And they're going to bring those buyers to you if you market to them.
Mhm.
Our ability to market to them comes through offering buyer agency commission. So it's to me, it's a marketing tactic that brings you the best, most qualified buyers that you can get into your house.
Yep. The other thing that I just wanted to point out is, as a buyer, why do I care? Why do I need a buyer's agent? Having someone that is dedicated to be your dedicated agent,
Your advocate.
Yes.
comes with a lot of advantages. You just heard me talk about all of those things that need to be negotiated. Well, having someone in your corner is a really big deal for those things, because again, if you get the best price but you have to move in with your parents for 2 months, maybe that's not worth it,
Right.
Like, or maybe it is. I don't know your all's situation. And they're going to have market expertise. They're going to have good connections if there's something that needs to be fixed with a contractor,
They've done this
recommendation.
before.
They've done this before.
Right.
Exactly. Now, one thing that will change, and this is a real change starting August 17th, before you tour a home with a buyer's agent, you will have to sign an agreement that says how they're getting paid if you purchase that home. Some people may say, I want a certain length of time, like let's work together for 30, 60, 90 days. Some people might just do it property by property. I don't really know yet personally. I like to do a buyer consultation where we're talking through the process, what you're looking for, what your goals are, and at that time talk about what my fee will be and how we're going to move forward working together. So that's something that you will see coming up that will be quite different.
And our team has taken a lot of time to get together and talk about what is best for buyers that we're working with. And honestly, when we're working with a seller, we always sit down and have a consultation meeting first and start the ball rolling. So it makes sense that the buyers get the same service. And this is something we've been doing for a long time, but now it's going to make it much more important.
Yeah.
Like if you're going to end up paying your buyer's agent, you want to make sure you're working with a good buyer's agent. So you should come in and sit with them, learn about the market, become a stronger buyer, and know how to move forward.
And then you understand the costs involved in that.
Yeah, nobody likes to be blindsided, and buying a house is already an overwhelming. It's a lot of change. It's a lot of change, and there's a lot of things, especially when you're going into a house that you don't know, like what's behind all the doors and what's in the basement and all of those little things. Anyways, that like for me, those are the things that I'm looking at what I can see, right? Which is why I always bring my husband, because he's the one that's like poking into all the corners and things and like really getting into the nitty gritty. And I'm like, oh, I love the design. It's wonderful. I love how this room is set up. And
That's
I'm
part of
looking-
it too.
Right. I'm looking at the cosmetics, right? And so when you're already going through such a deep change of like picking up your family and moving towns, moving school districts, moving all these things, I'm already aware that I'm not going to know all the questions to ask because I'm in the thick of it. And that's where we need somebody that's like,
Just shut off.
we need somebody as buyers, we need somebody that's looking at it from a 10,000 foot view and can see the whole picture. Whereas I am, as a buyer, looking at it from like maybe 5 feet in front of me. And so I truly believe like having a buyer's agent is going to be the best advantage to make sure that I'm not walking into a house that I'm not.
Absolutely. And it's for a lot of people, if not most people, it's the biggest financial investment that you make in your life. And so to have somebody whose entire job, not just like personally, but fiduciary, like their legal obligation is to be in your corner is just absolutely huge.
Yeah. So if I, as a buyer, find a house that I want to go see, August 20th is the date. That's the future date here. It's August 20th. So it's after this August 17th change. What are my next steps as a buyer? If I say, Kat, I want to go see this house, what's my next step?
So it's theoretically, if we've already been working together, then you're going to have already signed an agreement, a buyer agency agreement. If you're a new buyer I've never met with before, then our first step is going to be preferably let's meet in person. And it can be right before we go in the house, somewhere like an office, or even I've met people at a Tim Hortons to review documents so you understand what you're signing before you sign them. Then once you understand what you're signing, then we go see the house. So we can schedule to see it at 1 p.m., but let's meet at noon somewhere else so that I can have you review those documents. We've done it over Zoom too, but it's important for you to know what you're committing to before you commit. And understanding that a buyer's agent cannot take you through a property without you signing.
And one thing to add to that is this does not apply to open houses. So if you walk through an open house, you don't need to have an agreement, but you do need to know that the agent in that house is not your agent. They are working for the seller at that, now you might create an agency relationship with them down the road, but at that moment, they're representing the seller.
Now, can I go to an open house and ask Kat to come with me and still need an agreement? Or
that is a sneaky little loophole. No, no, you cannot. If you have an agent there to represent you, there has to be an agreement about what the compensation will be.
Anytime an agent enters a property, if they do not have a signed agreement with the buyer, then it is assumed they have a fiduciary responsibility for the seller.
So I can attend open houses with my husband anytime that I want. No agreement needed. If I see a property on Zillow or Realtor or whatever, then I want to see it outside of an open house, then I call Kat and say, Kat, there's a property I want to see. She said, great, let me prepare the paperwork. And that agreement can be based off of a property by property case, or I could say, Kat, I'm really hunting for houses. Let's set something up for 60 days. And then once that agreement's set, then we can go to town and we can look at all the houses we want. And
let me just point out one other advantage. We're in the trenches here. Like, I keep a list of stuff that, sellers I've met with, homes that might be coming on the market. And there's negative incentive for me to ever mention any of those to a buyer. Sorry, let's just be real. If there's no chance or way for me to get paid on it. Once I have an agreement that if you buy a house, I'm going to get paid, I might call John and Susie seller and be like, hey, would you mind if I brought this buyer through? And you're negotiating it up front. But what I'm saying is your agent is connected to the community and knows what's coming too.
And that's one of the things we had talked about before is like Kat almost feels like she's matchmaking. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Like she's got a pool of people that she knows are, we're interested in a 4-bedroom and big backyard and big kitchen, And then you might have other, buyers that are interested in a 1-bedroom, super single, single family house. And meanwhile, what houses are coming down the line. And so then you can say, hey, I think that there might be, some
and it happens all the time.
We have a lot of sellers that have to sell before they can buy. And that puts them in a very weak position when writing competitive offers. So sometimes what we were able to do is pre-sell their house to one of our own buyers and do that matchmaking. And then that buyer now is in the position to write an offer that's contingent on the sale of their house, but not contingent on the list and sale of their house.
The buyer.
Yeah. There's always that nervousness, I feel like, of like getting out of a house and getting into a house at the same time, and especially with the market the way
a lot of moving pieces.
There's a lot of moving pieces so that you don't end up homeless or living with mom and dad unintentionally.
Unless you want to.
I would say another thing that our team really focuses on, some agents will do what's called dual agency, when you have a listed property and you represent the buyer and the seller. On our team, and Adrianne can talk to this a little bit more, if I have a listing and one of my buyers wants to see it, I will actually pass it off to one of my team members.
Yeah. There's some cases where there's a specific set of circumstances and there's a reason why it would make sense to have a dual agency situation. But I would say for the vast majority, that's part of the benefit of having a team is that we can refer off that buyer and then you get your own agent, you get your own agent. I mean,
You feel like there's a conflict of interest?
There is.
Usually when there's...
there is. How can you represent both sides at the same time? You simply can't. Right.
If I'm in the house as the seller's agent, I cannot point out flaws. They're in the seller's disclosures, but I'm not going to specifically be pointing them out to a buyer because that harms my seller. Versus if I'm in there with a buyer's agent, if I see something that's a defect, regardless of if it's on the seller's disclosures or not, I'm fiduciarily responsible. My responsibility is to share it with them. So that
Well, and let's be like, there are some things that may affect your decision that wouldn't be something that would be disclosed. So, for example, let's say that they put down new flooring and rather the joints aren't tight, like they cut a square. And as a buyer's agent, you can be like, I mean, listen, like clearly this is their like level of, you know,
attention to
detail.
what can't we see?
It's not going to materially affect the house. It's not a structural issue. But to me as a buyer, that would be important because it's like, well, what else did they do on their own?
And you're looking at those nitty gritties, whereas me, I'm looking at like, oh, I love the
Sure, there's a
lighting,
lot
I
to
love
take
the
in.
paint. Yeah, there's a
The
lot. to take
layout,
in.
the neighborhood. I mean, you're in a house for 20 minutes, you know.
Right.
So
20 minutes to envision what the rest of your life will look like.
no pressure.
So,
But if you
Hopefully it's
hate
gonna
it,
be better.
we can sell it for you. Yeah,
Yeah. Get you into something else. I think the most important thing that we really want to convey is that buyers and sellers shouldn't be afraid to buy and sell a house after August 17th. I had heard some people saying, oh, I'm going to wait till August 17th to buy or sell. And I've heard other people say that now they're afraid as a buyer that they're going to be out on their own with no help. And that's just...
I think none of those things will be true for sure.
Yeah, you can always have an agent help you, and you can always look forward for that. Like we're not necessarily salespeople; we're consultants.
Mm-hmm.
We're here to consult and help you make the best educated decisions that you can. We're not going to tell you what to do. We're going to tell you what information you need, and then help you make the decision that's best for you.
Help us make an educated decision. Now, here's another question. Let's say I sign a buyer's agreement with you, and I also have another agent that's kind of poking at me and wants my business. Can I have two buyer's agent agreements?
No.
I can just have one?
No.
Yeah.
So the agreement is going to say it's an exclusive buyer agency
Exclusive
agreement.
buyer.
Yeah.
Now, we have had a scenario where a buyer is looking in Grand Rapids and here.
Okay.
And then what we do is we have two exclusive buyer agency agreements. Each one is defined in the area, and then each agent works together to negotiate. Usually we will somehow compensate the other agent.
And let's talk about the reason behind that. It's the same as having an agreement with a seller before you list a property. You're going to put a lot of resources into that. I mean, on the listing side, it's actually writing checks to the photographer to run Facebook ads, to, you know, create your social media, etc. But on the buy side, you're still spending a lot of resource. It's just your time, your gas money, you know, your
childcare,
arguably more valuable resources. And so, you know, in both scenarios, there's, at least for me, I want to know, like, hey, if I'm going all in, I want to know that you're all in too, because it's a relationship. So,
Okay.
Any
last words?
Don't be afraid. If you want to buy or sell a house, it's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
It's fun.
And stressful. Sometimes I promise people that you're going to cry 3 times during the process.
I have not had too many of my clients cry. What are you doing to your clients, Adrianne?
I'm just trying to let them know it's normal.
Yes,
It's
is.
a high
Yes,
pressure,
yes.
high stress. Absolutely.
It is.
All right.
There's a lot that can go wrong, and that's why you
But
want
that's
an
why,
agent.
exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Well, there you have it. That's what's happening August 17th. Don't be afraid to reach out to Kat and or Adrianne if you guys have any questions. And thanks for the update. And I'm sure there'll be more updates on the real estate industry as things progress over the next couple months. So
Absolutely.
thanks for joining us, Adrianne. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Bye, guys.